we've got one speaker, and then we've got a panel of opening remarks, closing remarks. One, two, three,
Four. Yeah, and then you can use this one.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Maybe you can give, since Ismahan is here, maybe you can give her 1 minute at some point.
Before,
I don't know, but she's sitting here, so whatever you think is relevant.
we should have Miriam is going to give a couple of points. Maybe Ismahan might come in at the end.
Yeah.
Khalid is closing, but so I need to check
Yeah,
it.
but it would be weird to ignore her.
Sorry?
Okay, now introduce Luciana to the rest of the right if you want.
No, I'm just going to announce everybody's names. So, good afternoon, everybody. I think we're gonna need our headphones because there's a little bit of background noise. I hope you can hear me. Wow, it's a fantastically full audience. We're here 1 year after we signed the historic Emirati Food Declaration. 1 year. You can't hear? Can people hear me? 1 year on after signing the Emirati Food Declaration, which an historic occasion with 160 governments and leaders who signed on to that declaration. And we're here today to talk a little bit about progress and next steps. I'm here with a super illustrious audience by the person who was leading on the declaration herself, Mariam bin Mohammed Al Maheri, the head of the office, but also the minister at the time. Anne Vaughan, Deputy Assistant Administrator from USAID. Dr. Suk Silo, the Secretary General for the Council of Agriculture and Rural Development. Thank you, sir. Dr. Luciana Jacob, the Director of Evaluation, Monitoring, Studies and Strategic Information at the Ministry of Agrarian Development in Brazil. Next year's a host for COP30. Dr. Martial Bernot, Team Leader and Senior Natural Resources at FAO. And last but not second last, Dr. Channing Arndt, Senior Director for Transformation Strategies at the International Food Policy Research Institute and CGIAR, obviously. And then some closing remarks. And I'm going to change the agenda a little bit. I'm going to ask two people to give us closing remarks. I'm going to Khalid Etawal from the UN Food Systems Hub, and also Ismahan, that you hear Ismahan. I'm also going to maybe ask you for some reflections. So before we start what I think will be a really interesting conversation, I'm going to ask Dr. Channing to go through some of those synergies and possible trade-offs for food systems transformation. And then I'm going to invite our speakers up to maybe discuss progress, but also discuss their priorities for the future and how we move forward, particularly the investment priorities. Dr. Channing, please.
So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, sorry. I have made it. Yes, that's terrible. I introduced the Excellency and then I slipped you out. I'm not one who's not able to accept my mistakes.
Don't worry, we're all the team here and we're all working together here, so it doesn't matter who comes first. First of all, thank you so much for being here at this late of the day. It's been very exciting because I've announced quite a few things with a lot of partners, and we've now got a third announcement which I'm really excited to talk about. But let's first step back a year. We were at COP28. Bill Gates and I were on stage and we announced the partnership. And in this partnership, we basically worked on 5 tracks. We worked, which we announced today, a new LLM for ag research and development. We worked also on working together with partners on a new package in the Aim for Scale initiative. And this package, this innovation package, is about AI-based, farmer-centered weather forecasting services, and this is particularly for smallholder farmers in low and middle income countries. Now today, or this session, we're going to talk about the technical assistance. And I don't know if you remember, I know with many of you, we worked together to really get the consensus of many countries to work together to get the political will to really change or transform food systems. So, as James mentioned, the UAE consensus consisted of many declarations, and of course the declaration that I was leading at the time was our Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture. It has a long name, Resilient Food Systems and Climate Action, and we actually were the declaration with the most countries signed up, 160 countries. So thank you to all of you for making this happen. Now, this declaration was and remains a landmark document. It's a two-pager document, and for the first time really fused food systems and climate action together in one document, creating a common language between government, private sector, civil society. And we really wanted to, I mean, it took us, I remember sitting in a lot of the consultative group meetings and really trying to get the language simple but precise enough. Some said it's too general, some said it's too precise, but we wanted to make sure we find the right balance. And I want to thank you all because this really was a team effort. So, thank you. So, now we have to think of walking the talk. So we've signed the declaration, and now many countries came to us and said, okay, we don't have the know-how or we don't have the resources and we need your help in this. And this is why we're stepping up to announce now the technical assistance. We're calling it the Future Food Systems Program, which is really designed to help, and this is also with IFPRI together, where we're helping a selected number of countries. I think we've chosen 15, right? 15 countries that we want to work with as a first batch to help them align their NDCs, align their NAPs, align their climate, to have the right climate tools to be able to do the food systems transformation as set out in the declaration. So I really want to thank our partners, IFPRI. I want to thank as well our partners, the Gates Foundation, of course the CGIAR, all my partners that are here, that we put this effort together to really help those countries that have put in and said we want to do this, we want to help, but we're actually helping them make the transformation because time's not on our side. And again, this all comes down to partnership, and I cannot thank you all enough for your efforts. My team is here, and I want to thank my team as well for all their efforts. Chris, Fatma, in particular, I know many of you know, they're like my silent soldiers working hard in the background, so I want to thank them very much. And I also want to thank all my partners. If I name you all, it's going to be a long list, but I just want to say we could do nothing if we didn't have you guys on board. Thanks again for everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now over to Channing. Belated, but here you go.
There we go. Thank you very much. So I want to talk a little bit more about what Miriam was talking about, this effort that we're doing in Future Food Systems. And it does follow on the Food Systems Declaration. I use 3 words for short. And it basically very broad objectives in the Food Systems Declaration, adaptation, nutrition, food security, workers, livelihoods, welfare, natural resources, water management, and of course carbon intensity of food systems, and a series of kind of actions that could be taken that has to do with integrating food systems into the climate dialogues and policy agendas, orienting policies to actually achieve the Food Systems Declaration, mobilizing the finance that's necessary to get that done, and then of course accelerating science and evidence-based policymaking. And that's what we're talking about today, is this is the evidence-based policymaking that we're going to be trying to look at right now and how we're going about that for this coming year. So if we look, Miriam was mentioning, we have a series of sort of documents or instruments, if you will. There's the nationally determined contributions, there's the national adaptation plans, there's the national agricultural investment plans, and these things in principle should be coming together to inform a national development plan, which if there is a Ministry of Planning, it would be sitting there. But then eventually you want all of these plans to actually be reflected in the budget. You want the finances there to move through the budget, so it should go into the actual budget. But we're really talking about, for this particular project, trying to get to the medium-term expenditure framework, because this is a long-term transformative process, right? So that's what we're doing, and we have the partners that these countries that I will get to, to integrate these into the NDCs, integrate risk is another element to make sure that we're doing robust and resilient solutions, and then identify cost-effective pathways to getting there. So we'll be using a bunch of pretty powerful tools to try to identify some of this prioritization and some of this work, and we'll be working with partners in all of those countries to try to transfer these tools such that we're not the only ones using those. So that's where we're going right now. We have 15 countries, 5 in Asia, 8 in Africa, 2 in Latin America, Caribbean. IFPRI will be working with the top 13. FAO has more experience in Brazil, and we'll be working in Brazil. And then we have a group with strong experience for Latin America and for the Caribbean, for the small island state. But here's the look of the countries. And these are, for us, we were super pleased. I was telling Miriam, when these countries, Chris Hamill sent these over, and I was like, this is fantastic. These are all places that we know very well, where we have working relationships. In many cases and places, we're already working with them on a day-to-day basis. So it works very, very nicely, and that was just really by chance. So it worked out very, very well. So this is the focus countries. What we're doing is we've decided we're doing all foresight analysis, but we've decided we want to do a common pool of analytics across every country. And this is, we'll run through those in more detail, but this is sort of to establish a good base, but also to facilitate the training that we've been talking about, and to facilitate conversation across countries. One of the things that I'm convinced of is the groups that are doing this kind of transformation work across don't speak to each other enough. And so this is something that we can facilitate. And then we'll do specific analysis that really relates to what is the thing that you really want to try to resolve, now, before COP30. And we expect something less than half of the effort to go to common, and something more than half of the effort to go to specific. We don't know what the specifics are in every case, so I will be speaking about mostly the common. So I'm going to go into that. So here are the agri-food system diagnostics. Basically, we want to situate the food system within the NDC, right? And that's just a series of structural analysis. What's going on? What does the economy look like? Economy-wide risk profile just recognizes that the world is a bouncy place and becoming bouncier, and we want resilient investments. Then the third relates to taking these two together and prioritizing investment. We can't have these lists anymore. We need prioritized portfolios. And we also have multiple objectives, so we need these portfolios to respond to different objectives, and I'll talk to that in just a minute. And finally, the country-specific analysis, and I'll do one example where we're already starting with something. So agri-food system diagnostics, this is one way to sort of think about it. Goes from primary agriculture, you transport, you do processing, you transport again. You can transport straight to the consumer, or you can transport to a food service. But the point is that agriculture, the food system, is much bigger than just agriculture. So, and then that leads to demand, and you've got inputs coming in and imports coming into these systems. And if you look over on the right, the point is the agri-food system is much bigger than just primary agriculture. It's very important in low-income countries, so around 26% of GDP in primary agriculture in low-income countries, and what was about 13 in the sort of the agri-food system more broadly defined, as I've just defined it. But it gets smaller as you develop, right? So lower middle-income countries, it's around 16 and 12, and the relative importance of off-farm becomes greater. So somewhere between lower middle income and upper middle income, most countries shift. The primary agriculture becomes smaller than the off-farm, the downstream stuff. And in high-income countries, the off-farm is 5 times bigger than primary. Okay, so, and then we can situate Nepal, for example, in this, within this framework, so they know where they are and where they are relative to others. And Nepal is a lower middle-income country, but its ag sector looks a lot like a low-income country. Okay, so this we can do, and we'll add decomposition of value chains, growth in market structure, drivers of future transformation. The economy-wide risk profiles are new, and it's cool actually. We've only been doing this for a year. And so basically we're looking at risks, and we're trying to catalog all risks. What comes in and affects your domestic production, things that we always talk about: drought, floods, high heat, all of this stuff, inundation from from hurricanes or cyclones. And then what comes from the outside: world market variability, changes in capital flows. What are your main sources of risk? So those are the questions. How risky, how bouncy has this economy been in the past? And what are the main catalogs of risks? This is a common thing that we want to know across. So what we do is we dump these risks into a model of the economy, and we get out things on poverty, on growth, on GDP, and other indicators. So if we look at this, we take the case of Kenya, which isn't showing. This is Kenya. And it's interesting. We didn't expect this. Most of the risk for poverty, not for GDP or consumption or other things, comes from world market risk. And the number one risk item for Kenya is beverage crops and the beverage crop price, right? And that coffee price, tea price, that variability moves people up and down, above and below the poverty line quite significantly. Not surprisingly, variation in cereal yields does the same thing. And then there's a lower hierarchy of risk running down. And these are the kinds of conversations we want to have. We're having them with the Central Bank of Kenya as well as Kipra. Then we want to look at, we can look across country as well. So here we've done 7 countries, most of which are in the group, some of which are not. And this we've shifted from poverty to consumption. But basically we get a look and see these are box and whisker plots that give you an idea of the range of variation. And so you can see Kenya is relatively compressed compared to, say, Malawi and Rwanda. And down below we get, what is the source? Malawi and Rwanda, it's a lot of domestic variation. That the weather, the agricultural sector is quite important. Okay. It gets to be more, it's interesting. The one on the far right is Papua New Guinea, be an economy a lot like Azerbaijan. A lot of dependence on fossil fuel exports, not dissimilar to UAE. And a lot of volatility that emerges because of variation in the price of oil and gas, right? And so they have a lot of volatility coming from world markets and a lot of volatility that transfers from consumption because they're a poor country and they don't have the financial reserves to back that. I suspect we will see something very similar for Nigeria, which is one of our group of countries. So the third thing is the policy prioritization. So we have the structure, we have the risk, we have a series of investment data, what are possibilities for investment. We can put these all together. We're going to get out a series of indicators, and then we can run through that through a household analysis, which gives us information on kind of poverty, nutrition, other items like that to allow us to try to build a portfolio. So in this case, we're going to go to Ethiopia, okay? And we do a little index that sort of gives us an indication of the cost effectiveness of the investment. There's a lot of information actually in this slide. And then the different colors correspond to different objectives that you might have. And we only have 4 because otherwise the graph would go out of control. But if you look at the top 2, it's interesting, right? So our number 1 by just a hair is food loss in horticulture. And this is a very cost-effective investment. And it's particularly good for poverty. And it's particularly good for diets, right? The one just below it, which is agronomy research in cereals, which is in line with their request. This one is also quite good, quite cost-effective, but it's also interestingly complementary because it's good for growth and it's good for undernourishment, right? So these two form part of a portfolio that will help you to try to reach multiple objectives. You don't want just poverty reduction. You can't handle that. You need growth. You need worry about nutrition. You need worry about diets. You need to worry about greenhouse gas emissions. You have a whole series of objectives, and we can try to build an investment portfolio that gets you to those objectives. And this is closer. So now we have one example related to exactly this for Ethiopia, because we've done all the preceding stuff with Ethiopia already. So we're already working on the specific analysis. They have this year gone and developed their agriculture and rural development policy for 2024. They've highlighted 8 constraints. The one that they really want to focus on is land use. And the reason is very, very small farm sizes for large numbers of farms and substantial land degradation. So they have a series of ideas, what they want to do in terms of integrating land use planning, land use consolidation. These are things that they're thinking about, and a series of specific policy options, which would be maybe instead of annuals, shift into tree crops, maybe more work in dairy, right? Maybe in high quality areas, we need bigger farms, perhaps. Should we switch into high value crops, keeping small but having a larger, a more revenue per hectare? Or should we be encouraging people to get out of agriculture altogether, right? Move into the rural labor market, or often, and especially in Ethiopia, there's now most Africans actually live near a relatively large town, more than 50,000, right? It includes Ethiopia. So getting a sort of a non-farm job. And all of these things we can work with them directly to try to figure out, okay, are these good ideas and how do they fit together as a portfolio? So that's where we're going. We have a very accelerated time frame. We're launching right now. We will finish these 3 core analyses in Q1. We will move, we're already moving in some cases, to the specific policy analyses. And the whole idea is to have a series of items ready by COP30 so that we can illustrate that we're making progress. But I think to close, it's really, these are the things we're doing. This is the one that I want to emphasize, that, we as IFPRI, we need to be teeing these people up for a long-term process. This isn't, we need to pass our report. We need to hand out we need to make a check at COP30 on what we're doing, but we have to be aware that this is going to be a long-term process. So I hope that was useful, and that's the end of the presentation. I think I'm right in at 15 minutes. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Channing. Maybe if there's just, I'm going to put a shout out to the audience, see if there are any questions that you want to sort of come in on very quickly before I invite our distinguished guests up to speak. Or we can leave it to the Q&A if I don't see any hands up. Okay, so I'd like to invite to Assistant Administrator Anne Vaughan, please. Ms. Irene Madeje, the Director for Cereals and Other Produce Regulatory Authority in Tanzania. Irene. Dr. Luciana Jacob. Luciana. Marcial. And Dr. Silou. Silo. Dr. Silou. Yeah. So what I'd like to do is food for thought to thinking about a lot of the things that Channing has said, and maybe we can get into that conversation when we look at what's possible in terms of the priorities going forward. But I'd like to turn to Dr. Silou, to Luciana, to Irene, and maybe just to get some quick thoughts about how have you moved forward? How have your respective countries moved forward since the declaration? What have you seen moving, and what has given you a hope that things will be moving faster? Maybe I'll start with you, Luciana.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. It's an honor to me to represent my government, my Ministry of Agrarian Development and Family Farming. I have here the representation on the civil society of family farmers agricultures. Sandra is here. She's from CONTAG, and CONTAG is the main important organization in Brazil that represents the family farming. And for that, I will speak in Portuguese, and I will have some help, so we can privilegize, we can honor them. Ok? Bem, estou muito feliz em poder, todos me ouvem? Estou muito feliz em poder compartilhar com vocês as experiências, alguns resultados e avanços que o nosso país teve desde o ano passado. Alguns de vocês devem saber que nós passamos recentemente por um governo que exterminou o Ministério da Agricultura Familiar. Everybody is listening to me? Okay? May I continue? Right? E agora nós estamos em um momento de reconstrução democrática e da importância da agricultura familiar no país. Então, fico muito feliz em poder compartilhar os nossos primeiros resultados desde que o presidente Lula assumiu novamente a presidência do país. Não sei se todas aqui sabem que no Brasil 77% dos estabelecimentos da agricultura são familiares. Isso significa 4 milhões de famílias que vivem da produção de alimentos. Embora a gente tenha somente 20% da área do país voltada para a agricultura familiar. A questão da emergência climática para o nosso público ela é extremamente importante, porque pela alta dependência dos recursos naturais para a produção agrícola, a agricultura familiar é extremamente vulnerável ao risco climático. Principalmente aquela agricultura mais empobrecida, que é grande parte do nosso país. Nós tivemos recentemente no sul uma tempestade de dias e que devastou o sul do país, devastou as estradas, devastou os armazéns. Nós temos problemas de perda de solo que vão demorar 30 anos para se recuperar. Vocês acham que um agricultor familiar que está numa zona longe é mais ou menos impactado do que um agricultor com dinheiro que está na beira de uma estrada asfaltada? É claro que o agricultor familiar é muito mais vulnerável às mudanças climáticas. E por isso nós temos que dar uma atenção muito grande para a questão da adaptação. E uma coisa muito importante para os países do sul global, e eu acredito que os colegas que estão aqui vão concordar comigo, é que não se pode falar na questão ambiental, na questão das mudanças climáticas, se a gente não trouxer a questão da justiça climática. Porque para além de tudo, um ponto em que a gente está falando da vida, da permanência das pessoas no campo. As pessoas perdem as suas propriedades, são obrigadas a deixar o campo. Então, a gente não pode pensar sobre isso sem a questão da justiça climática. Por outro lado, embora nosso público, aqui representado pela CONTAG, seja o público mais afetado pelas mudanças climáticas, nós temos a solução. Porque nós temos um diálogo muito mais próximo com uma agricultura inserida na natureza, com sistemas agroecológicos, que usam sementes tradicionais, que têm práticas menos impactantes e para quem a floresta em pé vale muito mais do que a floresta no chão. E aí eu vou fazer, vocês devem ter ouvido falar que o Brasil entregou as suas novas metas, as suas novas NDCs, suas novas NDCs. Não são super ambiciosas, mas são um passo à frente. E nós, no governo do presidente Lula, diminuímos desde o início do governo em 47% o desmatamento na Amazônia. Nós precisamos acabar com o desmatamento ilegal. Mas também precisamos diminuir o desmatamento legal, que é aquele que é permitido pela legislação no Brasil. Como nós vamos fazer isso? Como nós podemos dizer para um agricultor que pode desmatar determinada área pela legislação para ele não fazer? E aí entra a questão que o nosso colega falou anteriormente, que é o financiamento climático. Nós precisamos pensar em estratégias de remuneração desses agricultores mais empobrecidos, para que eles mantenham a floresta em pé e possam fazer florestas produtivas. Florestas que produzam alimentos com base agroecológica, mas que façam isso em consonância, em diálogo com a natureza. Nós temos a solução para a mitigação. Nós removemos gases de efeito estufa, GHG, da atmosfera. E nós precisamos de instrumentos financeiros para remunerar os nossos agricultores. Eu tenho mais tempo? Em poucos minutos eu quero aproveitar para trazer alguns resultados positivos. Eu acho que é muito importante também nós comemorarmos os resultados positivos, porque para a gente não perder a potência de ação, né? Desde que nós assumimos, e aí eu vou precisar colocar os meus óculos um segundo. Thank you. Desde que o governo do presidente Lula assumiu, nós tivemos alguns ganhos. Nós temos um programa de crédito rural, onde nós repassamos diretamente aos agricultores crédito com juros muito baixos, para que os agricultores possam aumentar a sua produção. E vocês sabem que a indução por crédito é um instrumento poderosíssimo para que nós pensemos os sistemas agroalimentares. Uma vez que você direciona o crédito, você também direciona a transformação dos sistemas. E assim fizemos. Na última safra, né, que nós contamos por safra, nós aumentamos em quase 30% os empréstimos para a agroecologia. Em 25% decaiu o empréstimo para plantio de culturas transgênicas. Vocês sabem que a questão do maquinário é muito importante para a agricultura familiar, principalmente um maquinário adaptado. Nós aumentamos em 20% a quantidade de empréstimo para máquinas. Aumentamos em mais de 50% para a bioeconomia. O feijão, que é a base da alimentação brasileira, teve um aumento de quase 200% nas linhas de crédito de empréstimos. Florestas, jovens, 64% a mais de mulheres têm pego crédito no Brasil. Nós acabamos de lançar o nosso Plano Nacional de Agroecologia, onde nós vamos investir 9 bilhões em sistemas agroecológicos de produção. Nós acabamos de lançar o nosso Plano Nacional de Abastecimento Alimentar para promover comercialização a partir de circuitos curtos, priorizando cooperativas, fazendo compra direta do que os agricultores produzem, e aí eles podem ter segurança para produzir, porque nós compramos esses alimentos e distribuímos em hospitais, em presídios, na merenda escolar. Além disso, nós estamos investindo 50 milhões em quintais produtivos para as mulheres. São só pequenos exemplos que eu gostaria de trazer para a audiência, para dizer que o presidente Lula está muito comprometido para atingir as novas NDC, e nós só podemos fazer isso junto com os agricultores familiares, em diálogo com os países irmãos e com os organismos multilaterais. E aí, depois, eu gostaria de fazer a finalização com algumas propostas de ação e financiamento muito claras que eu trouxe para vocês. Obrigada.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luciana. It's really interesting hearing about the mechanization, hearing about the loans to farmers, hearing at the compulsory purchases, and how Brazil is using policy in a way to be able to create markets and correct markets. Irene, could you maybe talk to us a little bit about Tanzania? You're just producing the master plan for agriculture. There's a lot happening in your sector. What's been happening in the last 12 months that gives you hope?
Thank you very much. In Tanzania, I think post COP28, the activities that have actually proceeded in the country, and I'm proud to announce that as a country we put together an agriculture sector master plan that is an integrated vision and approach for the country that is approaching it agriculture development from a food system. It is comprising of all the key sectors within agriculture, which is basically crop, livestock, as well as fisheries, and putting up the approach very similar to what we've seen here, the presentation that is coming from primary production all the way to the market. And what is really critical about this master plan is it has incorporated the key elements that came from the declaration from the COP28 in terms of the adaptation and resilience mechanism, as well as encompassing the overall concept of food security. And the way we are approaching food security in Tanzania is not only for Tanzania ourselves. We understand very well our role that we have in the region. So we're looking at it from a regional, Pan-African sort of perspective of food security. But in addition to that, we know the potential that we have, not only to feed Africa, but to feed the world. So we have actually taken that as an approach. So if I can just give a little bit of a highlight of the agriculture sector master plan in terms of how we are projecting ourselves by 2050. We're talking in terms of quadrupling the GDP that is actually coming from agriculture. We are projecting at 100 billion of GDP. Moving from 18. So it's quite ambitious and very comprehensive. And in terms of the productivity improvement for key commodities, we have key commodities that we have selected, looking at them and say these are like high priority. And the selection is actually approaching it from food system, not only in terms of high income earners in terms of export, and food security, but also looking at nutritional elements and the overall ecosystem approach. So we're looking at productivity improvement for key commodities in a resilient and a sustainable way, and we are also looking in terms of the income improvement for smallholder farmers. In Tanzania, close to 70%. Of the farmers are actually, 70% of the population is dependent on agriculture, and 90% of them are actually smallholder farmers. So it's very important for us. When we are considering income improvement, poverty eradication, this is definitely a means to which we can actually approach that. So we're looking at improving that from an average of 651 dollars per capita to around 1,450. As and when we are growing our agriculture, it's also important to look at value addition. So we have targets on the value agro-processing improvement as well as improvement on the export that we have in the country. Just to sum it up, in terms of the broader outcomes that we're expecting from the transformation that we have undertaken, we first and foremost, we're talking about undernourishment, and this is definitely yet again a food system approach. Today we have up to 25%, so we're projecting that by 2050 to be 2% of the population. And in terms of the share of population working in agriculture, as and when we are developing our agriculture, in the country, definitely we are projecting a reduction of the percentage of population depending on the agriculture. So it's moving from 65% to 45% by 2050. And finally, in terms of the people in the poverty line, we're talking about 26%. With our agriculture sector master plan, we're projecting that one to be 2%. So this is basically where we're going, and as I said earlier, this is the master plan that we've launched this year, but we are already implementing what we call Agenda 1030, which has already started to yield good results in the country. And seeing the country today where we sit in Tanzania, we're food sufficient by 128%. So we're already serving the rest of Africa, the region, and the world. Reflecting on some of the comments I heard earlier today in the presentation, in terms of some of the key areas that we need to really address, it's an issue of food loss. Talking about, I think the presenter was talking about the key policy prioritization from one of the use case, the country, and one of them was actually food loss, and especially on the horticulture area. Sadly so, in Tanzania, today we're seated at around 30% of the food loss that we are seeing from the horticulture area, as well as cereals. So definitely this is really something that is already prioritized in our plans, but it is definitely a high policy impact area that we are actually going to focus our efforts, and we are really looking for support and for partners to actually come and work with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irene. And now I turn to Dr. Silu. Dr. Silu, Cambodia is a founding member of the Alliance of Champions for Food Systems Transformation. You have been You have a food systems pathway plan developed. A lot of things are happening. Maybe you could just give us a bit of a sum of some of the things that have been happening in the last 12 months. What's giving you hope that this is moving in the right direction?
Thank you, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. At COP28 in Dubai, Cambodia have endorsed the UAA declaration and joined the land champion for food system transformation. And Cambodia remain fully committed to implement the UAA declaration on sustainable agriculture, resilient food system, and climate action. For the first year, Cambodia have made remarkable progress in terms of policy and strategy formulation and implementation at the ground. Agriculture, food system, and climate change is the main priority of the Cambodian government that try to address to provide food security, nutrition, healthy diet, and protect the environment and promote the food system to green growth. Cambodians have continued to prioritize the agriculture as the pivotal sector that actively contribute to ensure the food security, promote rural economic development, improve livelihood, and reduce poverty, supporting the national economic growth. In this context, the government has launched the 5th and the 6th priority policy program for agriculture sector. The 5th priority policy program focuses on promoting agriculture product, facilitate market access, and stabilize price for particular product with a $100 million financing scheme that will facilitate agriculture value chain, ensure the balance of supply and demand, and support farmer production and to meet the need of food for Cambodia. The 6th priority policy program focuses on deploying commune agriculture officers to address the challenge to assess the technology by farmer and local community, orient farmer in their production and facilitate their access to market at the time of harvest, and develop the modern agriculture cooperative to address the challenge in production, ensuring the efficiency and economic of scale with aggregation of land use at the appropriate to modern equipment application. Cambodia has been working to implement the necessary measures, including building and improving infrastructure to support agriculture product, improving the quality of research and seed production, promoting agricultural technology research to increase crop resilience to climate change, management and optimization of agricultural land use, and build and strengthening human capacity and institutional to promote effective agriculture development. We focus on promoting animal husbandry, animal food production, and aquaculture, as well as to increase the use of technology and promoting law enforcement to manage and use forest resource and fishery resources. The resilient food system has been strengthened through the combination of effort from many ministry development partners to improve irrigation system and water resource management, early warning system, and anticipatory action, adapting social protection policy to support the food security and nutrition when disaster hit. Enhance the expand agriculture social protection system to increase the resilience of people against economic risk and shock, improve the food reserve system, uptake the digitalization opportunity, improve rice fortification, and improve and also launch the One Health program, improve the infrastructure contribution, and strengthening the adaptive capacity of system and community to climate change and disaster. At the same time, Cambodia also promote the agroecological transition and the landscape approach to protect ecosystem service through the conservation protected area, restriction of deforestation, forest and wetland restoration, and the development of forest and fishery community and community protected area using a landscape approach including indigenous community. Cambodia plays an active role in Asian Climate Resilience Network, demonstrating its commitment to regional cooperation on climate resilient agriculture. This engagement reflects Cambodia's leadership in adopting a practice that both food security, address climate change, and promote sustainable development within Asian framework, especially on climate resilient rice variety and climate smart agriculture practice. And we also developed the third national strategy for food security and nutrition, and update the Cambodian roadmap for food system trend for sustainable development 2030 to respond to the climate change and the respond to the global challenges. The circular strategy of environment focus on green, clean and sustainable environment is fully implemented. The Ministry of Environment is finalizing the Cambodian climate change strategy plan for 2024 to 2033. A design strategy is to fully align with the NDC and the long-term strategy for carbon neutrality. And Cambodia also encouraged a national-wide public campaign on tree plantation under the slogan Green Sprout, with a minimum target of 1 million tree plantation per year that has been implemented. This effort, including establishing tree nursery, distributing the sapling at no cost, encouraging a public, including local community, civil society, women and youth, in the plantation movement, and encouraging green energy in public, private, community, and state land. Together with the development partner, Cambodia has established 3 nurseries with indigenous species in 5 regions across the country. And we also, government also conducting the NDC stock taking that will help understand the status of NDC implementation and propose a roadmap to increase the ambition and accelerate within the NDC 3.0. And the final document of NDC 3.0 will be present at COP30. And we are actively seeking for collaboration with all the stakeholders and partners to provide the financial and technical support to implement our priority, mainly the implementation of the third national strategy for food security and nutrition and the Cambodian roadmap for food system for sustainable development 2030, and to implement the strategic plan for agriculture development to promote agriculture growth through increased productivity, commercialization, agricultural diversification, and promoting digitalization with competitiveness and inclusiveness that provide high quality and safety product and ensure food security with high consideration of land, water, and forest fishery resource management. We also continue to strengthen the extension of agriculture research and extension service. We focus on support the local agriculture producer to increase the availability of affordability of nutrient-dense food, particularly focus on increased access for those vulnerable to malnutrition. We also streamline the agri-food system by linking agriculture product to value chain through the promotion of sustainable food system, agro-industry, develop and digitalization. The government also mobilize the people to raise animal and as a family and in the community or in the school to increase the food availability, include food quality and food safety to ensure the diverse food resource to consume. Cambodian also support the enhancement of food system and climate adaptation to fulfill the ambition under the Paris Agreement. And we also need to scaling up the agri-food system investment and intervention that stimulate, provide multiple benefit across climate mitigation and adaptation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Silo. It's an extremely interesting look into the complexity of the actions that have been happening in Cambodia, from policy changes, including policing, investments, infrastructure. What I'd like to do now is maybe get to our two organizations and just to dig in a little bit into, you've heard a lot from the three countries. You're deeply involved from both a donor perspective but also a technical assistant perspective. How do you see those, what are those successful approaches that you see that excite you, that bring food and climate together? And then, I mean, what do you see as some of the key priorities for picking up on maybe on Dr. Channing's presentation, and around what are those policy gaps that you see from your perspective? And then maybe we can just talk very briefly with the countries as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for hosting. I really wanted to first thank the UAE for the work that they've done and the whole team behind them for the leadership on the declaration that I think we even saw earlier today. There was some recognition that without that declaration, we wouldn't have the political push and impetus to do some of the work that needs to be done. So just a huge kudos to the former COP presidency, and a huge thanks to the Azerbaijani presidency this year, which is keeping it on our radar. And that's, I think, this is a very easy thing to say, but we still need to do it. We need to continue to prioritize the climate and food nexus and overlap. And then let's also put words into action. And how do we go about doing that? I think some of the ways that the U.S. government has been supporting that has been our commitment through Aim for Climate and through Feed the Future funding to invest. We made a commitment to and have reached about $315 million for the CGIAR over 5 years to help advance climate smart research and development that is helping countries around the world make sure we're taking up those right innovations. We also have something called CASI, the Comprehensive Action for Climate Change Initiative, that is working in over 20 countries right now to help countries have strong NDCs. And what I find interesting is from our NDC partnership friends, the biggest demand for support is around ag. The most questions are getting asked around ag. So I actually have a call to action to folks today. Channing has just talked about here's some ROI, here's some prioritization of investments. The NDCs are due pretty soon, though. So I know the timeline goes until next COP30, but there already is good information out there about what good overlaps, what good ROI is. Investing in food loss and waste, with a huge kudos to Tanzania for the work that's being done. I'm really proud of a USAID program in Tanzania that's working on trying to support the government in cutting food loss and waste. There's things we can do right now to write those NDCs to make sure that they are really incorporating where we can get the most, the expression in English, the most bang for your buck. It's a little militaristic, but it's really important to, like, how do we get the most amount of money? Because dollars are scarce, so we know the needs are so high. So that's sort of my plea and call to action is let's use that data now for those drafting of those NDCs and make them tight on when it comes to ag. Then on the other side, when we have CATUP, just focusing a bit on Africa, there's a great opportunity with the Kampala Declaration, and then the implementation of that declaration. That is, it's focused on agriculture. Let's make sure that we're really incorporating in countries' plans, are taking up exactly as we just heard from Tanzania, all of the climate considerations and those really huge adaptation needs. They need to be synced up in all of these different policy documents, and then let's put money behind it. So on the U.S. side, proud to announce and talk about how we're trying to direct more climate finance towards agriculture. One example in Zambia is we're supporting the government to do an investment fund that will mobilize $70 million, a lot of funding in the ag space. In Ghana, we're working on co-creating different efforts to push in more climate finance towards ag. The needs are so great. We really need to be focused on that enabling environment, both putting the finance there, but need also another ask of governments, besides all the NDC work and the getting your CATUPs right, is also make sure we have a right enabling environment for private sector investment that can help drive this, unleash the power of your own small and medium enterprises that really hold a lot of the solutions to the problems that climate change is causing for smallholders. So a little bit of everything there for you.
Thank you. Very comprehensive. And another call out, I think, from the US as well around the enabling environment. I think we're hearing that a lot. The strength of policies. It's the finance needs to be accompanied by what's the highest bang for your buck. Marcel.
Thank you, James, and thank you to all the panelists. Muito obrigado. To respond quickly, but I will use a journey, basically on the journey of agriculture within a COP. Because a COP is not about agriculture. It's about climate change, and who is a room negotiating is mostly Ministry of Environment, Finance, Foreign Affairs, but agriculture is never there. On FAO, we represent also agriculture. We are the UN technical, as you say, agencies with concern on food and agriculture. So for us, it was really important that agriculture remain always in that agenda. And so the journey will start in Sharm el-Sheikh. Sharm el-Sheikh, and Khaled, you were there, was the first ever COP where you had an agriculture day as part of the action of the COP presidency. So it was very important. And at that moment also you created a first partnership to bring together partners, but countries, but also non-state. So CGIAR, now a member of FAST, and I will explain other partners that we have also. Then COP28. COP28 was the next step. It was really the next step because we had a declaration that was so successful with 160 countries. I know, working in the UN Intergovernmental Organization, how it is to have 160 countries signing a document, even the shortest as 2 pages. It's really in a record of time. So it was really showing also the urgency of expressing that countries are really, no doubt, we need to sign because agriculture is utmost important. And then, as you said, having agriculture in a COP is never given. So FAO, we engaged with the COP29, a presidency that was very receptive on recognizing that food, agriculture, and water should be part of one of the thematic days. There is no doubt. So basically, we will have that day on the next week, on the 19th, and I invite you to join. But what they bring in the piece of that, they bring, and we were looking, okay, we have COP27, COP28, what can be value added in that process? And the value added was the harmonization and exchange of information. We did a quick mapping first, and we will present that on the 19th. We have today more than 90 initiatives. CGIAR did another mapping, but all those mappings are interesting that we have plenty of initiative, coalition, network, partnership, but what we need is to bring all of them a little bit together. It's not a matter of coordination, it's a matter of exchanging information to identify gaps on where we can work together in a common objective or in a common country. So you presented your 15 countries. As FAO, we will contribute to that because we have seen that those countries are also for us utmost important. So the harmonization part, so Harmonia, this is the name of the initiative, is about that, bringing all together in a common space for exchanges. So 90 initiatives that were born and with 43 in the last 3 years. So it shows the urgency. Some people say, oh, it's a multiplication. Yes, it's a multiplication, but because there is urgency to act. So this is why we are all here today. And then we will have COP30. And this is, I will join with Brazil, because Brazil just joined the partnership. So the first partnership, for instance, Brazil just joined. And we were very pleased to see how they joined. So they nominated the main focal point, which is Itamaraty, so Foreign Affairs, but they nominated 2 associated focal points, one from Ministry of Agriculture, for sure, but also from agrarian development, because this is what we need. So we have also the agrarian development that is part of FAST. And in FAST also we have the 2 main organizations of farmers that are quite well known. World Farm Organization, yes, we have, but we have also the World Rural Forum that is also part of FAST as a board member. We have CGIAR, so that complement. We have also the banks, because you mentioned finance. And finance, and this is basically the main goal of FAST, how to transform the policies. We need policy on parabens, because having a clear policy change the needle. It can really change and activate the finance, not only public but private investment. And we need really to look at that blended finance, how we can use the public finance to activate the private finance, because public money will never be enough. We all know that. So we need to transform the sector into not a risk. And most investors are seeing agriculture sector as too risky. And just one number that will show you where we are. If you look, for instance, the public, I was mentioning what the OECD Development Assistance Committee is reporting on agri-food, so climate-related development finance. This is the public part, so bilateral flow, World Bank flow. 10 years ago, it was 30% of the climate finance going through agri-food system. Nowadays, it's 20. So, yes. So the agriculture sector is losing ground in relation to other sectors that look like more attractive for public investment. So we need first to change that. And then if we revert that, we will also revert the attraction for that sector and give back to that sector the right place it needs. So I'm calling all of you to be on the 19, where we will have the launch of Harmonia, but that day is not only on Harmonia, it's bringing also the farmer in all the different events. At COP28, there are a very important momentum with all the farmers opening the day. And we decided with the COP presidency that we should also give the place to all the different events. So basically the farmer will be present we will have a finance momentum with the World Bank, and farmers will be there to say what they have to say. We will have a regional momentum where we will bring together all the different regional initiatives. So the AAA in Africa, PLACA in Latin America. This is a platform for ministerial level for agriculture. And the ASEAN CRN will be also present that day. So we have a lot of different momentum. We have a momentum of science and innovation also, that it's also important, because, and I will finish my journey here, what we need is policy to be able to activate investment and finance. If it's not in the policy, no one will take the risk to invest in something that is not in the policy. And the third pillar is data. For that, we need data, we need science, and CGIAR is here to provide that piece to inform that the policies that we need, that will be then funded. So I will end my journey here, James. It was quite fast, no CO2 emission to navigate you from Charm to Belém. So thank you.
Thank you, Martial. So let me just sort of recap. I think you've recapped. We started with the data. We went on to the experiences. We heard a lot about policy, a lot about certainty, and now a lot about a coordination. Before I go on, I want to ask you a final question, but I want to go to the audience first. But let me throw out the final question first. In terms of what is your sort of, you know, we know that the capacity is a constraint within the systems that we work for. As a deputy administrator said, there's a lot more demand than there is the capacity to be able to deliver. So what is that one sort of technical assistance, technical cooperation area that you feel that your country needs, or that you feel that you see from the system? But before, I wanted you to think about that, and I want to go to the audience to see if there's anybody who would like to ask a question. Yes.
Thank you very much for creating these opportunities. Can you hear me well? Yeah. Because this convergence in terms of technical very important, because based on our work in Vietnam, we also work to closely with national level, but also subnational level. So that when we do something like this, not only at national policy, because that's much more, but however, the implementation also very important. And that will bring in the reality for upcoming years. We can have something concrete for the output and also outcome level and impact. So I hope that in the work plan you presented, please also consider both national and subnational level for food system transformation together with climate. Thank you very much.
Is there another? Are there anybody else that would like to take a few questions together? Hans, you've answered all of their questions. So maybe we could just very quickly go through everybody, starting with you, Dr. Silo, taking into account the subnational level, and then maybe flagging one or two key areas of priorities for you in terms of technical assistance. What is it? What is that technical assistance that if you could receive that you would ask for? Thanks.
Thanks for the question. Cambodia have established the provincial working group for coordinating food security and nutrition at the subnational level. The provincial working group is to coordinate and provide the platform for the government and civil society development partner work together to identify the priority issue related to agriculture, food security, nutrition, and food system. So in order for technical assistance, we would like to request you to support to strengthening the capacity of the provincial working group for food security and nutrition, as well as provide some technical assistance or even financial assistance to implement the project in the local area, in the specific target area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silo. So a call out there to strengthening capacities at the subnational level, recognizing that things exist but more needs to be done. Dr. Luciana.
Okay, are you going to translate me? Yes? Okay, I will pass to another one until he could prepare himself.
Thank you very much. I think the key ask from Tanzania, first of all, we already have put forward a very ambitious policy, intention, and as a government, we are, putting an enabling environment. But definitely resources are required. So just taking my experience coming to this COP, and I'm just walking around, I'm seeing quite a lot of people who are claiming that they have resources to be able to support these initiatives that are actually aligned to the intention of, resilience systems. But at the end of the day, when we go back to the country, and I'm looking at it as a systemic approach, not only within the government and the initiatives that we're doing, but also within the overall ecosystem, whether it is the private sector, and everybody in the country, we're still seeing a gap. So what is it that we need to crack? We need to crack that bridge that is actually not working. So there seems to be quite a lot of resources that are geared towards these initiatives, but we still, when we go back, we still have huge gaps. So specifically for Tanzania, we already have an ambitious plan. We would like to actually be able to crack the resources to actually be able to support us implementing those ambitious plans. Thank you.
Are you ready? Ok. Eu vou comentar. Are you listening to me in Portuguese, in English? Ok. Vou comentar o que a audiência falou e já aproveitar fazer um fechamento ou nós vamos. Do you want me to comment what she said and then close my... Ok. 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 Vocês sabem que o Brasil é um país imenso. Então, o desafio de se trazer a política do nível nacional até o chão, on the floor, é imenso, né? E por isso, estamos planejando, e aí eu já vou para 4 pontuações muito... nós temos uma política de desenvolvimento territorial, de desenvolvimento por território, onde no território as políticas são implementadas em nível nacional, estadual, local. Nós estamos planejando olhar para essa política territorial com o enfoque de construir territórios resilientes ao clima, para que as políticas possam, de fato, chegar até a ponta. Nós ainda não temos o financiamento necessário, mas nós temos o modelo. Então, esse é um primeiro ponto de cooperação. O segundo ponto de cooperação, como você falou sobre os dados, depois podemos conversar entre os países, mas não há para a agricultura familiar uma métrica única com relação ao balanço de carbono. A agricultura familiar ela é plural e enquanto nós não tivermos esse valor na mão, nós não sentaremos na mesa da negociação climática com a dignidade e a importância que nós merecemos. Então, nós precisamos de uma métrica para a agricultura familiar, de balanço, de quanto nós podemos remover de carbono da atmosfera via solo ou via crescimento de plantas. Por exemplo, removemos X toneladas de carbono da atmosfera a cada 1 hectare de agrofloresta. Nós temos que ter isso na ponta da língua. E nós estamos organizando instituições de pesquisa, universidades, sociedade civil para ter essa métrica. Terceiro ponto, creio que para essa audiência seja muito importante. Como o nosso colega disse, a agricultura familiar não está com o lugar salvo na mesa. Nós precisamos visibilizar a agricultura familiar nesse processo. Então, o que nós vamos fazer no Brasil, um caminho até Belém, e convido vocês a pensarmos juntos nesse fórum, é de fazer uma publicação sobre experiências exitosas de adaptação e mitigação nos países. Nós precisamos mostrar isso para o mundo. Então, esse é um terceiro ponto. E um quarto ponto é com relação à assistência técnica. Os nossos técnicos não sabem fazer orientações voltadas claramente para a adaptação climática. É muito novo. É cruel da nossa parte exigir que um jovem técnico vá a campo e resolva sozinho a vida daquelas pessoas se ele não tem conhecimento. Então, nós queremos montar um programa nacional e convido vocês a fazer isso de forma transnacional, de formação à distância, porque não é possível uma formação presencial, amplo, de formação para formar técnicos, agentes de adaptação climática para que possam, no campo, fazer as orientações corretas. É isso, muito obrigada. And I see you in Belém. Hasta Belém.
If I could, I appreciated the subnational question, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to think about good South-South conversations or good learning. Kenya has great devolution on finance, for climate finance, for pushing out money to local levels. We have to get this. That's where the real work is being done. I really appreciated your comment. There's a lot of talk up here, but really how we're going to help people and deal with the climate crisis is getting the action down at local levels. So I think the Kenya example is one. but from out of Harmonia, and it's a great initiative for us to kind of come together, but to start focusing kind of geographically, to start really pulling down and committing to specific geographies can be very helpful. We've done that in a Feed the Future effort where we've looked at some prioritization with IFPRI on where we think we can have some really strong impact in Zambia, Malawi, and Tanzania, where if we focus resources, look at some of this prioritization model, and working with the government in a strong enabling environment, we can really increase productivity and help push out a lot of climate smart practices and unleash the power of farmers in sub-Saharan Africa to make a real impact. I think we have to get tangible on the geographic level, or we stay up here and we don't have the impact that we really need to do. So I appreciate the Harmonia effort so we can identify those gaps and then getting to work down at the local level. I would like to flag one thing. We do have a lot of initiatives. There's a lot of tired government officials. There's a lot of different systems. You have to fill out a lot of for how from us on the donor side to also be as streamlined as possible and at the national things. So we're not creating more work, but actually all the work that has to be done, doing it in a more sort of focused way, I think would also probably be appreciated, I think. So we're not duplicating efforts in any of this. So I think the US government joined the TCC last year, and we're proud to be part of that effort to build off of, not duplicate, existing efforts that are on the ground, because I think that's an important effort for us to all kind of go in the same direction and support countries' good efforts. Thanks.
Thank you. So on the regional level, perhaps I will go even the local level, the people level, the farm level. We have global challenge. Yes, we have global challenge in terms of climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation. But the solution, all the solutions that we need to implement, they will be implemented by people, by farmers, and most of the time small-scale farmers. So this is really that we should look at that continuum. It's not simple, it's complex, but we cannot do without that. So this is what I want to say here. And I see already James looking at me with tic-tac, tic-tac. No? Okay, so good. So he said no, so no. He should have not said no. No, but the people, and I can give you an example. I was on a round of table in the Swedish pavilion, and basically was saying something simple. You can ask a farmer, do you want to save the world? He will look at you, will say, yeah, ready to do that, but perhaps I need someone that will save my family, my farm, my community, my village. And if this will not happen, I'm not in position to help you to save the world. So this is basically what we need. We need to implement solutions with quick, evident revenue for the farmer. And then it will follow. But for that, we need also investment, because the farmer will not take a risk to go to a transformation of a system he knows quite well that might not be perfect, to move to a system that is set better, but without all the backup, all the risk. Who will secure the risk? Who will help him to cope with that risk? So this is where the finance part enters, and with the data and the policy. So yes, the regional level is really, really important, but also going downscale up to the farmer level, and then back up, we will save the planet, we will have the result we need. So thanks, James.
Thank you, Marcel. A model for agriculture, demonstrating family farming, demonstrating what family farming can give back. There's some really interesting, and then not forgetting the whole way down to the farmer. Before I go to Khalid, who's going to give us a closing, I think there's one more question from the audience. Did you say that there was a?
Oh, why not? No. Okay. Hi, my name is Tule. I'm from Agra. And I just wanted to actually add to Anne's statement about technical collaborative. I think it's important that donors continue to look at more opportunities for coordination and actually unlocking investments. From the presentation that he gave, whilst we then say we want to talk to all our ministries and make sure that they align either on policies or making sure that the financing is available, even with our donor partners, just building the capacity for those agencies like Irene's to be able to advocate for that whilst the partners are working together, rather than creating what we're seeing as well, new initiatives that have similar names, doing similar things, and frustrating governments, to be honest, and the ability for our countries to then be able to do the work, I think, is what we need to be focused on. Thank you.
Is there a comment or a question from somebody else in the audience? No. Oh, yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Donat Lamini from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I'm a young farmer. So in all the intervention from your FAO, USAID, we need to think on the end results in terms of the implementers on ground, your farmers, your young people, because the reality is that climate change is real and it's affecting farmers, especially the most vulnerable young people. In Africa, the narrative is changing. More young people are interested to lead and be in the forefront of food production, but the challenges are there, they are real. So in all the support, we need to ensure that more support reach younger farmers to ensure that they adapt and ensure that they are in the forefront of production, policies and coordination to ensure that we increase food production and we are resilient and adapt to the change in climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A call from the farmers for support as well. David, before we close.
Thank you very much indeed. My name is David Nabarro, and I've been working in this agenda for quite a long time. In the last few comments, something has come out that we must hold on to when we leave here, because a lot of the conversations around agriculture, food and climate are focused on production of quantities of food, but what we've heard is that the focus must be on supporting and sustaining the livelihoods of farmers. It's a very different policy goal, because if you're just focusing on food production, then you don't fuss about whether it's large-scale farmers or small-scale farmers. You're just looking at the total aggregate production and saying resilience is having a certain amount of food available, particularly for our urban areas. Whereas what we heard from the panel, from Thule, from yourself, from Vietnam, is hang on, if you don't focus on the livelihoods of your farmers, your policy approaches will just be wrong. And that's where the IFPRI modelling is so important. It must be about livelihoods as well as about quantity of production. So I am taking away from this conversation that farmer livelihoods, particularly smallholder farmer livelihoods, family farmer livelihoods, must be central, and we need to take that back with us wherever we're going, to the FAO, to IFPRI, to the World Bank, to regional banks, to national governments, but most importantly because the coordination of efforts at the local level is vital if livelihood focus is there. I just wanted to tell you I've been very stimulated by this conversation. Plus, plus, plus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much. I mean, and actually, it came from, there were a number of other conversations today, and they all go in the same direction. No, the goals are the transformation of the system. There's a lot, and we need to put the voices who are going to be affected by it at the centre. And the last part was something that David said to me before. The process is important. How we do this, how we can learn from each other, how we can motivate each other to go forward. I'd like to thank all of our speakers and now invite Dr. Khalid Etawel from the UN, the Deputy Director from the UN Systems, Senior Officer from the UN Systems, the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. It's really challenging to speak after all these distinguished speakers, and it's been more challenging to speak after David. but just to offer some thoughts about the journey that we are all in food system transformation. One, I think we all agree that we have a momentum around food system transformation, thanks to the United Arab Emirates for championing this through the Emirates Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture and Resilient Food System and Climate Action. We also had last year the stock-taking moment, the Food System Summit stock-taking moment, where the leaders came together also to produce commitment on food system transformation. But this should not deceive us that the situation on the ground, as David was referring to, as the questions are coming, is really as we want it to be. The number of hunger is increasing. We have more than 730 million people suffering from hunger. Emissions are increasing, 10% increase from 2000 until now, and the inequality within and between countries is increasing in food systems. What shall we do? We have a lot of challenges. Some of them are very structural and they need a lot of intervention financially and in terms of technology. But one of the low-hanging fruits is coordination, as many of you have mentioned. And this is where the Food System Coordination Hub Convergence Initiative is coming in. We have launched the initiative in COP28. It is actually in support to the Emirates Declaration. It is also in implementation of the Secretary General Call to Action. And the idea here is to have coordination between two national tracks, food systems and the climate. This does not happen automatically. In many countries, this does not happen at all. And we actually started the implementation of the initiative. The first country was Kazakhstan, and we went to Indonesia and Brazil in the last months where we implemented the conversion initiative. We brought together all participants from the different sectors dealing with food systems, with climate, with the private sector and civil society, enforcing a difficult discussion about how can we converge policies, food systems, and the climate together. The outcome of these workshops is significant. We have what we call blueprint. This is an agreed framework by countries, by the participants, on what they shall do in the coming months in order to make sure that when they design their food system policies, they are considering the climate impact. And when they design their climate policies, they are also considering what shall be the impact on food security and food systems. We go to these workshops together with different agencies, with the UN system, with FAO, with WFP, with IFAD, with CGIAR, and we offer a demand-driven approach to food system transformation. And I believe that the appreciation from the country about their needs in this regard is really significant. Our idea now is to, by COP30 in Brazil, to implement this workshop in 20 countries. So we have 20 convergent blueprints where countries commit to converge food system transformation with climate action. Please follow what we are doing. I think we will have a very interesting coming months leading to the Stocktaker moment, to COP30 in Brazil. We have also the Nutrition for Growth Summit, many important momentums, and I think we have a role and an opportunity to keep putting food system at the center of discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khalid. So it just comes to me to just say a few final words. What Khalid is doing, I think, is super important. It really connects the dots together with how Dr. Channing started off the conversation, talking about what the options are, discussing those options in governments and with stakeholders, and then having a degree of coordination, but always having farmers and the outcomes that we want at the center for where we're going to go. So I'd like to thank you very much, and thank you.